welcome to the JQK live Q&A session, Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific time, where we take your questions and go over all that's going on. I'm realizing my comments on TikTok are not working. I don't know how to turn those on. Is there a special thing we have to do on that? Let's see, comments. No, it looks like it's on TikTok, so okay, so it's all working out. So we're here taking live questions every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific time. Just shoot them out here on different, YouTube and Facebook and Twitter. It's not Twitter, LinkedIn is there, but also TikTok. So we're going to take your educational questions, but just to let you know, those tuning in, we do provide a raffle for free video consultations, 15-minute video consultations for those watching the live show. All you need to do is post consultation, write that in to the comments, and what happens is you also need to like and subscribe where you're watching, and then every 10 minutes or so we'll name a person up, so you get 3 different people getting free consultations. But with that, let's get it started. Any asylum news cases I've been waiting for 7 years. So have you been waiting 7 years for an affirmative asylum case? Now, just to let you know, my office doesn't handle asylum cases, but it's typical for asylum cases to take many, many years because they're so backed up, and it's just getting worse and worse. With the crisis that's going on the southern border, a lot of the officers that typically do the asylum officers are now working with the border, and the immigration courts themselves are so backed up, so if you're doing what's called a defensive asylum, that's backed up just as much, could take years. 7 years is pushing it. That's the longest I've ever heard someone be pending an asylum case, but that's it. I can't give advice on your unique or individual case, but that sucks that you're waiting that long to get an asylum case going, unfortunately. So hopefully the situation worked out soon so you don't have to deal with that kind of stuff. Hey, can I change to another non-immigrant visa or immigrant visa while I'm on a J1 2-year home residency requirement? So let's back it up what a J1 2-year home residency requirement is. A J1 is called the foreign exchange or a cultural exchange visa, but it's much broader than that. There's a lot of different kinds of activities that could happen on a J1. But one of the things is some J1s, depending on what they're doing in the United States, are subject to a 2-year home residency requirement, where the U.S. wants you to go back to your home country and share the information for a period of 2 years about the stuff you learn in the United States and share with your people before you re-enter the United States. If you have that requirement, you cannot get an immigrant visa. Immigrant visa is a green card unless you get a waiver of the 2-year home residency requirement. Now, it is possible to get a non-immigrant visa. Those are temporary visas, but some of them. For example, you're not allowed to get an H or an L visa if you're subject to this. You may be able to get an O or F1 or something like that, but you cannot do change of status. You have to go outside the U.S., apply for a visa interview, do a visa appointment, get a new visa approved, then re-enter. So when you have that 2-year requirement, no immigrant visas, no H's or L's, and no change of status possible. Change of status is when you're already in the United States and you want to go from one visa category to another. In the case of a person with a J1 2-year home residence requirement, they can't do that in the United States for those categories they can apply for. They have to leave, do a visa interview, and then come back. And that's going to postpone the ability to accumulate a 2-year home residence requirement as well. So there's a lot to look into there. You should probably talk to an immigration attorney in private to see what's going on there, to plan it out much better, because eventually you might have the opportunity to get a work visa like an H or an L or an immigrant visa, and you want to see what to do about that and potentially get it waived. So thank you for your question, Jordan. Thanks again for coming on the show. Tanya asks, good evening, Attorney Khosravi. Hope you had a great week. Thank you. Same to you. I'm still waiting on my interview letter from MBC. I got documentarily qualified in March 2020. Priority date December 2013. Embassy in Kingston, Jamaica. Yeah, unfortunately, it's sad to see that Jamaica is not moving the cases forward. I've seen some embassy visa appointments happen, but for non-immigrant visas, for O1s, for athletes and stuff like that. But I don't have direct knowledge of anything recent in the last 2 years with going to Jamaica. I've had a case there, but that's pretty wild that they're not scheduling interviews. There's a thing, you have to know how to get to it, but if you type in Department of State visa statistics and you check out the statistics for your category in the embassy in Jamaica to see if they're even issuing these kind of visas, it might be helpful to see what's going on. So you have to go to Google, type in Department of State, visa statistics, press the right links to get down to it to see if they're even processing. Maybe contact the embassy if you think they are to see what's going on, because that's a long time to have to wait. But thank you for your question. Thanks for coming on the show again. Muhammad has, hi, 120 days have gone and I've finished my marriage interview in Chatsworth, no RFE, no decision. What should I do? Well, you can write a letter to the officer. Write a letter to the officer in Chatsworth and say, hi, I had a visa appointment more than 120 days ago. Please let me know what's going on. And maybe call the USCIS hotline too to try to keep pushing it. It's not good. I mean, I'd have to review your case. I'm not even sure you should do that yet. First, you need to contact an immigration attorney so they can see if they could spot any issues by reviewing your file. So I can't give individual legal guidance. I need to review your case first. So you should really talk to the lawyer to see if there's an issue, because you don't want to like push them and get a denial notice. Maybe an attorney could spot the issue and help fix it before they make a decision. So you should talk with the immigration lawyer first, but probably if your case is clean, writing a letter and calling them up and all that kind of stuff's the thing to do. But we need to know what's going on exactly with your case before we go that far. Angelica asks, how long does a marriage interview take and how long do I wait? Marriage interviews, I mean, it varies. If you have a very clean case and the officer doesn't want to ask too many questions, it could be half an hour to an hour. You might be waiting in the waiting room half an hour to an hour. This is if you're doing adjustment of status. You can wait 2-3 hours for your interview for adjustment of status. And then once it's done, they could approve it then. They could approve it a month later. We just had a question for someone who said they've been waiting for 4 months. So there's no proper answers. Just the average is like, you know, waiting an hour in the waiting room, an hour interview, and approval a few days later. But that could be different, wildly different. That's why it's like, it doesn't really matter what the averages are. It really depends on what's going on in your case. Does a legal entry delete the illegal entry we have in the past? Not necessarily. It depends on what you're trying to do. That's just too complex a question because there could be so many variations on that. For example, if you had a legal entry now, you should have applied for a visa. In the visa application, it asks if you've ever, violated status. And if you lied there and didn't tell them, then you have a new issue. You have misrepresentation. That's even a bigger problem. If you did tell them, usually they'll deny your visa. So I don't know there. But let's say you did tell them and it was okay. If you come in the U.S. and marry a green card holder and apply for a green card, then that violation is going to be a problem. They won't approve your case because you have past violations. But if you're applying based on a work visa, EB1, 2, or 3, then there's a thing called 245K that makes an exception, which fixes that, as well as if you're married to a U.S. citizen. So there's just different layers of complexity involved here to be answering this question. So I really recommend talking with a lawyer in private to see what you're trying to do and if you did misrepresentation or not, because it's just too complex to be able to answer. But thank you for your question. Feed Your Faith asks, good evening, Mr. John. Thank you. Hope you're doing well. Appreciate that. God bless you. Is it okay to travel internationally without my wife while waiting for a marriage immigrant visa interview overseas? The reason is for my mother's B-Day. There's just, again, there's a lot of these cool things have facts. So if you're a U.S. person, then I don't see, if you're a citizen or a green card holder, you could do whatever you want to do. I'm not sure what's the problem. There's just too many stuff I need to know the way the question's worded. I won't be able to answer that because there's gaps of information there about who the person is traveling, what their status in the United States, did they overstay, there's just too much going on, so it's too specific to be able to advise that without talking with you privately. Can I do a B2 extension then apply for adjustment of status? Well, that's complex because if you're filing for a B2 extension, you're saying you're going to stay temporarily, but then if you go and file for adjustment, then you're saying you want to stay. So it might look like some immigration fraud or misrepresentation going there. So you really need to talk with the immigration attorney in private to see what the basis of your extension, of your adjustment is, if you even need to bother filing for an extension, or how the timing of all that's going to work. It's too case specific for me to be able to answer here. So I'll just advise you to talk with the immigration attorney in private. YH asks, sir, let's say I sponsor my mother through an I-130, and after she gets green card, she files for a single adult son. What will be the impact to the son's case if my parent makes many overseas trips or in a re-entry? Okay, so if you have a green card, let's separate you from the case. Say your mother has a green card and they apply for their child. A lot of trips overseas is okay. Eventually, there's two issues if you have a green card. You're not supposed to be living outside the United States, so you need to maintain residence here in different ways. And a lot of travel is one thing, not living in the U.S. is another. We got to figure out how we can show that. And then later on, there's a requirement called the domicile requirement when the embassy phase starts for your brother. And for that, you got to show your domicile in the United States. So really, this is case specific again. I need to know exactly what's going on in your mom's life, what kind of life she has here, what kind of life she has overseas, how long her stays are overseas, and just the whole picture. It's just too case specific to be able to answer here. Mohammed says, good evening in New York. God bless you. Good to see you. I applied for I-751 in May 2020, still waiting on my permanent green card. Yeah, these cases for removal of conditions, the 2-year requirement for green cards, for marriage-based green cards, takes a while. It could easily be, another year even. So 2 years I see those happen all the time. So you just need to wait a little longer to see what's going on. Tony asks, when the USCIS sends approval to the NVC, National Visa Center, does the National Visa Center email or mail the attorney the receipt? Do we get the receipt copies as well? So it's not a receipt, it's a welcome letter, but the National Visa Center gets an approved I-130 case from USCIS. They mail email the applicant, but they CC the lawyer as well. I've recently had it multiple times where they put my email address wrong, so I did not get the notification myself. So you will get it, your attorney get it if they put the email addresses right. So be careful of that happening. But yeah, you should all be getting it technically. But snafus and mishaps do happen. Hello World asks, hello, we just got married, congratulations, don't have any joint documents. Can we send only a marriage certificate with the I-130 as bona fides and bring more joint documents at the interview? Well, you can. Some lawyers do it that way. Probably many lawyers just submit the marriage certificate. My practice, I don't do that. I wait, if it's appropriate, if you have the time, I'll wait to get some joint documents. I don't like to send marriage petitions in without some joint documents in. So I strongly recommend you have some. I'm sure you could pull some together in a short amount of time. If you got married, you've already obviously been in love. So there's got to be something. So it's up to you what to do. I don't recommend it, but I need to know more about your case and your background. But I don't like to submit without joint documents, but some lawyers do. IO asks, when can you file the I-485 if your I-130 is pending since February this year and you are married to a 10 years green card holder, both live in the United States? Well, the timeline for filing based on marriage to a green card holder has been current for over a year. So you could file the I-130 and I-485 together. So I'm not sure why you waited for this long since February. You should have done it a long time ago, but now we have to see whether you can file for adjustment of status, whether you have any inadmissibility issues or violations that could create problems for the I-485 filing. But unfortunately, the delay in filing was unneeded. You could file both of them together if it's case appropriate for a green card marriage case for adjustment of status. Cal asks, my asylum-based green card is pending since 02 years, 2002. Are there any options to expedite the case? Are you saying it's pending for 2 years or for since 2002? If it's since 2002, you need to get congressional help and file a lawsuit. But if it's been 2 years, that's kind of pushing it. I would need to review the case first, but potentially contacting USCIS, contacting the USCIS ombudsman, contacting a congressional rep, and eventually file a lawsuit might be the way to go. But we got to see what's going on in your case and to be clear with your question, because you say, oh, 2 years, is it 2002 or 2 years? Not clear. Sometimes cases take 2 years, so it's not that bad, but you need to start contacting USCIS many times if it's taking that long. Okay. Oh, you follow up to 2 years. Yeah, contact USCIS, see what's going on with the delay. Hello, is medical interfile for your adjustment appointment, is it a good decision? So you're saying you have an adjustment of status case pending, you haven't submitted the medical checkup with the application, and you just want to mail it into USCIS. Most attorneys will tell you it's not a good idea to send the medical because it may get lost and never reach its destination. We usually wait for USCIS to request it, and they'll send a paper with a barcode that you mail it into. You could try doing it if you want to, but if it gets lost, then you have to do the medical over again and pay the money again. I don't see that much of a rush, so I generally wait until we get a notice from USCIS asking us to submit it. So I would wait, but yeah, I don't know your case, I don't know the urgency of it, so I don't want to advise without knowing more information. How long for a work permit after marriage? Well, marriage itself does not entitle you work permit, so that's just not going to happen. If you're in the United States and you file for adjustment of status, you could file Form I-765 work permit C9 category. Average is taking 8 to 10 months after filing. Could be more, could be less, but just getting married is not a way to get a work permit. Malik asks, a F2A category. This is either a spouse of a green card holder or a minor child of the green card holder. Priority date November 2019, waiting for interview. Can I adjust my status for paying extra fee? If you have to be in the United States to adjust status and pay the fees, whether you can do so or not, I need some more information and what's going on with your case. So I wouldn't want to give you advice. It might lead to some misrepresentation or fraud issues or stuff like that. So, you know, you need to consult with an immigration or private to see what's going on and take it from there. I'm in status after concurrently filing I-140 and I-485. Can I travel again? Well, it depends. If you have a valid H-1B or an L visa or advanced parole, you may be able to travel. If they're valid, if you're not doing some... I can't tell you, this is case-specific stuff, so I can't advise someone to do something and then come back later and say, hey, you told me this without knowing anything but your screen name on the internet. So, you know, if someone has a case adjustment status case pending, this is how the general rule is. You're not allowed to leave the United States unless you have a valid H visa, an L visa, or advanced parole. There's another category V or something like that, or K3 or something, but I'm not going to go into because I can't remember. No one uses those. So it's I'll just say H1B, not any kind of H, but an H1B, an L, or advanced parole. If you don't have those, if you travel, your case gets abandoned, so you don't want to do that. Now, in some cases, if you travel, you may not be able to come back in. So I need to know about your background. Have there been any arrests? Are you going to a part of the world that's problematic? The COVID travel bans are ending in a week, so that's not a problem. But if you had gone to Europe, you would have been stuck there under the current travel ban system for COVID-19. So I can't advise whether you could travel again until I know everything about your case, your background, where you're going, what you're doing, all this kind of stuff. But that was the general rule that was involved. But thank you for your question. Thanks for watching again. I'll be done. I ask, I'm F1 doing OPT and ending in 2 years when my wife just applied for citizenship. So that's good, you maintain status IO, but yeah, you need to submit all the paperwork. You could have done so in February, but just do it now and just get it in, just in case you fall out of status or something like that. Or you can wait longer. Wife citizenship, it'll take longer. So it really is whatever way you want to do it and plan it out. But both options may be possible for you. So I live in Virginia, so I sent my I-130 to Texas. I received 2 letters, one from Texas, one from California Service Center, but the processing timeline of Texas are different. Which one should I follow? You shouldn't follow any of them because the timelines are not reliable, so don't even bother even looking at that. If you submitted your case properly and you got case notices, just wait and to get it, but I wouldn't bother checking processing times and following that. It's a waste of time. Go have fun, go out to the beach. Virginia Beach I heard is good, although it's probably freezing right now, but just have a good time and don't waste your time on that kind of stuff. So, I mean, let me break down kind of what the worries I have in this kind of case is. And we don't have to worry here because IO stays in the status. But if you marry a green card holder in the United States, for example, you're a student visa holder, and you marry a green card holder, not a citizen. To be able to apply for adjustment of status, you have to maintain status, be on some active status. But let's say you go to school, the school messes up and you fall out of status, you stop going to school, you go out of status. That could be a violation and prevent you from being able to adjust status. So to prevent something like that from happening, you want to file for adjustment of status as soon as possible to cover you. For example, I see this all the time. People are on a student visa, properly going to school, they graduate and they file for OPT because on F1 student visas, you can go to and do at least 1 year of work after graduating to get work experience. But when they submit the paperwork, Form I-765 plus the updated I-20 and school records, all this kind of stuff, they have errors pop up. They submit the paperwork too soon, too late, they're missing something, and it ends up getting denied, and all of a sudden they think everything's fine, but they're out of status. And since they're out of status at that point, even if they're married to a green card holder, they can't file for adjustment of status any longer. Now, if they're married to a U.S. citizen, it'll be okay, and in this case, citizenship will be coming up sometime, but if they're not, then it becomes really problematic. So we really want them to file for adjustment of status as soon as possible if you're married to a green card holder, just to get the case in, to avoid problems from happening. But that's the main issue I'm worried about there. But we have to know other issues that could pop up. If there's previous status violations, you can't adjust status when you're married to a green card holder, but you can when you're married to a U.S. citizen. So there's a lot of things we got to look at and make sure it's on the up and up to prevent problems from happening. I think with that, we're hitting the 30-minute mark of recording. We'll call it a day today. I'll see you all next week, 6 p.m. Pacific time as always, Wednesdays. And we'll take your questions and talk U.S. immigration. I have another show popping up. It'll probably be posted very soon with my associate Anya Sergiva. We're going to go through a lot of immigration stuff as well. So we have another program we're going to be seeing. We're going to put a lot of content out there to help guide you in this process and kind of relieve some of your tensions if possible. Hopefully not add more to it. But with that, thank you everyone. God bless, be safe, and I'll see you all next week. Bye-bye. I hope you enjoyed this educational video. You'll find our social media site has a lot more videos, images, and information about the U.S. immigration process. Please check those out on the various social media websites.